Hey everybody, and welcome to Behavior Tips that Teachers Use Every Day. I wanted to go over some of the things that might help you in your classroom. So the first one is own the room. So make sure that you're giving assertive, specific, authoritative commands like sit on the floor on your bottom, or open page to page 173, put your hands on your desk to show me that you're ready. Also, you want to nip any undesired behavior in the bud quick. So if you see somebody who's not doing something, they're off topic or they're messing around or something, try to walk over to them privately and give them a command. Nonverbal cues are best, so like tapping them on the shoulder or pointing to their book if they're not looking at their book. Making sure that if they're talking to a friend, maybe you walk over and just give them a quick wag of the finger, like no. And if you need to talk to them, make sure you do so privately if you can. If not, do a whole class reminder. So say like, everybody, let's all clear our desks, or everybody, all hands should be empty. Another really good thing is to move around the room and have proximity when you're teaching. So with your students, make sure that if you're reading from the book or if you're giving a class discussion, try to move around the room for them so that if there is a student who is misbehaving, that you're over nearby them, or you're just making your rounds around the room and so no one can misbehave because you're kind of constantly flowing and you're always kind of around everybody. Some quiet attention getters that you can have is like, if you can hear my voice, clap once. And you can do that really softly. So like, if you can hear my voice, clap once. If you can hear my voice, clap twice. You can also do a signal where like everybody puts their hand up and puts their finger on their mouth to be nice and quiet. You could do a light flick, but that one is not quite as recommended because some kids have difficulty with flashing lights. A countdown is extremely helpful. So like every desk needs to be clear in 15, 14, 13, and so on. So those are some easier ways to make sure that you own the room. Just make sure that you try to have that assertive, authoritative command because students, especially kids, can like really smell fear. And so make sure that you just know you're in charge. The second one is relationship building. So if you have ever had an instance where, say, you're in good relationship with somebody like a friend or a spouse, and they ask you to do something like, hey, could you go make this copy for me? Or could you get me a water, please? You're like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. I'll grab that for you. Now, say with that same person, you guys are out of relationship. So you're having a really bad day and you're really kind of ticked at each other. And they say, hey, could you grab me a water? And you're like, not really feeling like helping you right now because I'm not exactly happy with you. So it's the same with our students. If you're really not in relationship with them, they're really not going to want to comply with your commands. So if you're saying everybody sit down, they're kind of looking at you like not in your life. So a really great way to build relationship with students is to make sure that you give them a lot of praise and feedback. And your praise and your feedback should be a noticing type praise, not an evaluative type praise. So like, I really like the way, that's not good because if they're not in a relationship with you, they really don't care if you like it or don't like it. So you need to try to say things like, I see that Tommy is quiet online. Or, I see that Sheila is on page 173 and she's waiting quietly. So you're just noticing what you see that they are doing and you're saying it out loud verbally, but you're not putting an opinion or an evaluation system on it. Because if they're thinking that they're trying to please you and they don't really care about pleasing you, it's not really helpful in that manner. And also, if they're not pleasing you and they're really trying to build a relationship with you, then it really kind of hurts their self-esteem if you're not constantly like, oh, they're fantastic and you're wonderful and everything you do is great. So we just want to try to do a noticing type praise, like, I see that you chose the crayon that is red and you chose a crayon that is blue. So you're just noticing what they're doing. Another one for relationship building is assuming positive intent. And this is one of the hardest ones for me as an adult, and it might be very difficult for you. But assuming positive intent is saying that whatever that they're doing, I'm not going to say that they're doing just to make me angry, or they're doing to be spiteful, or they're doing to, like, stick it to me. And so you walk over there and you might say something like this, like, I see that you snatched a pencil. You might have snatched it because you didn't know the words to say when you wanted a pencil. You may not snatch. When you want a pencil, you need to say to a friend, may I have that pencil, please? So you're assuming that they don't know the words how to say, and that's why they did what they were doing. You might also have said out loud to the classroom, everybody take a seat at their desks. And one of the kids has 2 feet on like the seat right there. And in your head, you were thinking everybody feet on the floor. So you walk over and you say, you did take a seat in your desk, but I want 2 feet on the floor. Please do that. So you're walking over there not assuming that they're doing something wrong. You're helping say, maybe you misunderstood, so let me help correct you. And it's doing it in a positive type of a way. Number 3 is choice. Choice is huge in helping with behavior management. Choice gives children a sense of control in an absolutely chaotic world. So they have choice over very little in their lives many times nowadays. And so giving them small amounts of choice really fills their bucket and gives them a great sense of like accomplishment and authority in their own life. And when we say choice, like don't go crazy with it. Like have small choices like, would you like to use a pencil or a crayon to complete this activity? What color crayon would you like to choose? For older kids, you might say, like, if they were having to complete activities like 1 through 10, you might just say, hey, you guys could complete either 1 through 5 or 6 through 10. So you could give them a choice, or like complete all the odd numbers or complete all the even numbers. You choose. All choices need to be positive and acceptable to both parties. And what I mean by that is you shouldn't have 2 choices that say something like this. Do this or you go to the office. Because obviously only one choice is particularly acceptable to the child, not going to the office, you know. So we need to have 2 choices that are acceptable. For example, you may play quietly at a station or you need to choose another station. Both are acceptable. They could choose to stay there and do it quietly, or they could choose to just go somewhere else, which is also fine. Another one would be, you may sit quietly without fidgeting, or I'm going to ask you to please stand quietly at your desk. Which would you choose? So you're giving them choices that they can behave either by sitting or they can behave by standing, but either choice it needs to be quietly, please. Number 4, motivation and incentives. So some really fun ways, especially for younger kids, is stickers. They just go crazy pants for stickers. So you could do a daily sticker chart where you're just like putting it on their shirt, or that, you know, they just get to take it home on their hand or something. You could do it on a name tag. You could also keep a chart, and each kid could get a chart, and you might have like 10 squares on it. And so you say, if you get this filled up to 10 squares with stickers, or do it smaller because we don't have class very often, so 5 squares, then you get a reward of some kind. Another motivation is table points for older kids, and you can kind of see that here on the side. And table points, you could either do a daily competition for that, or you could continually track those and keep them in a book. And so again, when they reach a certain number of table points, they get some kind of a reward. Also, table captains at each table is really helpful. So if you say like, oh, this week, the blue table, you've got Timmy as your table captain, and he'll help keep that table quiet. So in order to get the table points, he'll be the one who motivates his table, and he'll be like, shh, everybody quiet, quiet, let's get a point. So he's the one that's kind of motivating that whole table, bringing them along. He's their leader. So for prizes, we've got 2 types of different ways that you could do prizes. So you could actually do a prize box that has really small things in it, like pencils, stickers, crayons, like tattoos that can go on their hand, anything small, like a bracelet, like nothing crazy big, like we're talking about dollar store, oriental trading, like super easy stuff, stamps, whatever. But if you wanted to do a non-tangible reward, so not something that they're going to physically take home with them, you could do something like, okay, if this team or this child gets to a certain point system, then they might be able to sit in a beanbag chair for their next class, or they might be the first to line up, or the first to pick a station choice, or they might be able to pick the class's room 30 spot. They could have their picture in the newsletter, their group table or individual student. Maybe they might get iPad time during stations instead of like book time or something. Another helpful thing is to have helpers in your class and assign them class jobs, things like line leader or table washer or prayer leader, station cleaner, book passer. Any of those things help to motivate students to behave, to be helpers, to get their class together, to motivate everybody towards a common goal. So the last tip that I have is make your whole class lessons meet your students' needs. So number one, no round robin reading, please. This is fantastic in academic settings where children are learning to read. And when I say round robin reading, I'm saying like Timmy will read the first paragraph and Tanya will read the second paragraph and Billy will read the third paragraph. And the reason that round robin reading is completely not one of those acceptable choices that we would use at launch is because number one, a lot of students in your classes might still be learning to read or might have a learning disability. And this is not the time that we want that to shine. This is the time that we would like everybody to be on the same playing field, and we're not working towards like academic reading here. The other reasoning is because when somebody else is reading, the rest of the kids basically get all fidgety and don't pay attention, and they get bored if the other child is not a very good, fluent reader. And so we don't want to lose everybody. So a good alternative to that is either choral reading, which means everybody reading at the same time, teacher reading, so just the teacher going through it quickly, or what's called dropout reading. Dropout reading means everybody reads at the same time, and if they don't know a word, they can drop out and then they could come back in. So let me give an example. I'm going to read this top little section on here where it says tip 5. So if I was reading this, and let's pretend this one of the kids doesn't know how to use the word student, we would all read together. Tip 5, make whole class lessons meet. He doesn't know this word, so he stops reading here. He hears all of us say the word student, and then he comes back in at needs. So he is hearing the word student auditorily, and then he comes back in when he does know the next word. That's called dropout reading. Again, launch is really not about academic reading here, and so we're working on making sure that we're meeting all students' needs. The next tip is getting through the reading quickly and having more interactive discussion or explanation time. And just think about this. If you've ever gone to a conference or a staff meeting or something and somebody is reading a PowerPoint to you word for word, how absolutely bored are you going to be and just not pay attention to that presentation or even get anything out of it? But if you go to a presentation where they have some bullet points, but they're more talking to you and you guys have interactive discussion, how much more meaningful is that presentation? Or we're asking kids to come into class and read these readings word for word and somehow get something deep out of it. And it's not going to happen. So I'm asking you to get through the readings kind of quickly, like, almost like speed read it, and then go back over it in a more interactive discussion type of way. And when you're using your readings, please make sure that you have visuals up there, either pictures or additional visuals. Add hand movements to it. So if you were like, oh, David threw the stone, have everybody pretend like they're throwing a stone across the room or something. Add a song to it or act it out. Do a video. And try, if you have any downtime in your class for any reason whatsoever, like you're getting out books or something, this is time for misbehavior. So try to have a downtime activity for them to do. In my younger classes, I give them a sheet that they can color on when they walk in, and you can have them continue to color that while books are being passed out or people are getting things ready. For second grade, if they haven't finished their vocab, have them work on that or study with a partner or something. Also make sure to take a break with your students. This is a lot of reading and a lot of thinking for a lot of them. And so maybe just read for a couple of minutes and then have everybody stretch or do a movement or add a song to it and then come back to it. So all of these tips all together are really helpful to make sure that your class behavior is on track at all times. And I hope you enjoyed this. Have a great day. Bye-bye.